Welcome to the Easy Answer Podcast. I'm Brandy, plant-based chef.
And I'm Vanessa, writer and plant-based adjacent.
On this podcast, we explore thought-provoking conversations around food,
share our point of view on current events, and explore how to be plant-based adjacent in this processed world.
Welcome back to another episode of the Easy Answer Podcast. We are going to be talking about what are we looking forward to this spring as we are coming out of the first phase of this pandemic. I refuse to say that we're done with the pandemic because that just seems ridiculous and a little premature, but we are coming out. We're a little more used to kind of what this is. And we want to know, like, what are we looking forward to this spring? So, Vaughn, what are you looking forward to?
I mean, you're obviously not listening to your mayor, Eric Adams, who's a vegan. So we thought that you'd be all on his bandwagon, right?
He is plant-based adjacent. We've already told you that he's not a vegan. They've caught him occasionally having fish, and he's plant-based adjacent, and we are not going to judge him.
No judgment. But he's trying to encourage everyone to get out and to, essentially get out and because the city needs to 100% reopen for, monetary gain. But then that also brings out the idea, like, people are getting out more because now COVID is the new normal, Mm-hmm. People aren't so scared of it as they were like 2 years ago. I mean, March 23rd would have been 2 years since the lockdown, right? Mm-hmm. So now people are getting out. The mask mandates have dropped. Students, first said they weren't going to have to wear a mask when they went back to school, and now they're going to wear a mask. Now they're going to wear masks. So like you said, it's more like a phase thing. I think that people are getting used to the fact that masks aren't going anywhere, and we just have to live with this. Mm-hmm. And human beings are social beings, and so we all have to get out. Mm-hmm. And so I think when I think of spring, I think about a lot of rain, and you see my hair.
Yes, that's what I was talking about at the top of the show. If you guys didn't know, in pre-production, right?
My hair was up, was down.
It was beautiful, big. It's still beautiful. I'm not saying it's not beautiful now, but she had it open, and we got to see how beautiful it framed her face. And then, like this spring, how we changed things up a little bit. Put it into a bun.
Because I was just like, I cannot, because I felt like and this is the thing that I do not love about spring, okay? The weather, like it was 2 days of raining in New York, like 2 days of just like
straight raining, yes.
Yeah. And so like that is so problematic for having natural hair. Like it goes from one day I'll leave the house and I'm like, oh my God, it looks so perfect. Like every strand is in place. Then you go outside and it's like, because there's so much humidity here in New York. And so I like the idea of always being able to put it up in a bun, always being able to do something else, because it's a lot of work to deal with. And I think that spring, the great thing about this season is that, it's the mark of new beginnings, right? Mm-hmm. Spring is a mark of new beginnings. But, just because it's new beginnings doesn't mean I want to be all with my hair out, because I love a hairpiece. And sometimes I think that a new beginning is buy a new hairpiece.
Yeah, or a headband,
Yes, a headband.
Yes, Vaughn has a line of headbands, so yeah.
Headbands, yes. I usually wear Bonos. I usually am wearing a headband, but I thought I would try to wear my hair out, but see that failed miserably. All right.
It happens. Now, what things like, okay, so we talked about what we don't like about spring. We don't like that it's rainy. We don't like the weather's inconsistency. The fact that, as a Black girl with natural hair, doesn't necessarily make your life that easy, depending on the conditions. What do we like about New York City spring into summer? What do we like about that?
New York City's like Chicago, like a lot of other cities. This is when you start to see people come out of their shell and actually get outside, because, we're like shut-ins for the winter, Yeah. And then spring comes, you start to see people outside, you start to see people out and about. There is also a problem during spring with allergies. But without the pollen, you don't get the beautiful, flowers.
Yeah. And just fun fact about how we can manage allergies naturally.
Because
There's this
Brandy knows the fun facts.
so stinging nettle tea. So if you find some stinging nettle tea, sometimes only called nettle tea, you can take that tea and you drink it. You drink it for maybe like 6 weeks of the season, and it gets into your system, and then you should be good for the rest of the way. Now, my recommendation for how we prepare this tea is that we take the stinging nettle tea, we put it into like a jar with the herbs, and you make it in every 3 days. So that's when it has the most potency. So you use it for 3 days, you drink it. If you happen to have any left over at the end of the 3 days, you can use that tea in your hair, and it is a great way to get rid of dandruff. So just
Oh,
yes.
I mean, Brandy, it's just a plethora of information. Okay.
I love random health
It's
facts.
funny because my sister and my nephew suffer from really bad allergies, and so they go to an allergist once a week to get shots.
Whoa.
And they have to do it before the season starts.
Oh my goodness. Did they ever did the allergists ever like tell them about the local honey stuff? Have they tried that one? Like a lot of
I think that it's so bad. Like my nephew, he's gonna be 10, so he's 9 now.
Mhm.
His birthday's next. His birthday's this Monday, actually.
Mhm.
His eyes fill up with like so much water, like so much. It looks like someone punched a child in his eyes and they close shut. And my people, we have like big eyes, and so it's like, it's
Mhm.
really bad for him. So
Oh,
now that they've introduced these shots that they get on a weekly basis, it's been very helpful to both of them.
every week. Wow. That's that. Wow. Okay.
That's how bad their allergies are.
Yeah. That's me with cats. I have a cat. I have an allergy to cats, and I always think of that episode of Martin when he had the allergy and it had the big eye and the big like it's literally like
These things are all indicative of spring. When you think of spring, you think of allergies,
yes, yes.
But some things are worth it. Like I had a cat, Brandy would come over here, and my cat loved her, Princess. God
Yes.
bless. I mean, rest in peace, Princess. We love you. And whenever Brandy would come over, Princess would want to run to Brandy. She was a black cat. She was so cute. And Brandy would sit there and say, you can't come over here, but you're real cute, Princess. Like, as if the conversation mattered. All she wanted was snuggles from Brandy. Okay.
She knew she would move away. We had our socially distanced engagement. Mm-hmm.
Socially distant engagement. Brandy was social distancing before everybody else was. And it's so funny that you talked about my hair because I was saying like I want it to be like shiny and it's not shiny enough. And I'm looking and I see like this little piece right here that's hanging out. And I'm like, I want it to go in and be slick. And Brandy said, that's the white man making you think that's your hair. And honestly, all I can do is like if I could just get my brush and slick this edge, it will look so much better, but no.
This sounds like be the whole episode on hair. But that is not the topic for today. We're gonna bring in now is a great time to introduce our guest for today. We're gonna bring Taryn to the conversation, who is a friend of the show who used to live in New York but has since left. So she's gonna let us know some ways that she like spring. Taryn, welcome to the Easy Answer podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming. So, what is some of your first, what are you up to right now?
Oh, a lot of things. Well, I've been working as a teaching artist. I started doing that in New York, New Jersey. I am now I homeschooled my son actually after I got down here. I used to be a classroom theater teacher in high school. But when I got down here, he was having problems adjusting. So I was like, instead of going all the way to, I was like 45 minutes away from the school that I was starting, I will just homeschool him. And then, we'll have that relationship. And believe it or not, that opened up a can of worms, like the door wide open, and good worms, not bad ones. Speaking of spring, but anyway, where I ended up feeling like I had a knack for it. He was well prepared for kindergarten. Actually, COVID hit in the midst of all that stuff too, so I got to see him in kindergarten because he did the hybrid. So I got to see what he was working on and feeling like, yes, he's ready. So I decided to start working with other people's preschool kids online, and this week actually I'm launching my own online preschool. I've been working through another platform for the past like 2.5, 3 years. So anyway, that's what I'm up to.
Spring
We have a project with that coming up, but yeah, that's what I've been doing and enjoying the spring.
Yes. Sweet. I love that. And I know as a teacher, like especially someone who like is a teacher, I remember growing up, like how I thought that was a really cool job. Not really, not like, oh, the job is cool, but the fact that you got the summers off in a way. So like spring was kind of like the last before you were like, oh yes, I get 3 months of 3 months away. Yeah.
Yeah, that's usually like the most, honestly, I think a lot of teachers are like, right now, because there's a lot going on usually in the schools before, the school year ends with whatever the requirements are. The kids are ready to get out because they know the summer is here. So it's usually heightened energy with that. But don't let the summer break fool you. It's like a lot. It's a lot. It doesn't feel like a break by the time you get there. It feels like, oh, well deserved. But yeah, that's true.
So when you said that you weren't in New York anymore, so where are you now?
I am in North Carolina, 40 minutes outside of Charlotte.
All right. So
you're in the NYC, I'm in the NC.
Look at that. So what are some like different, like in New York, when you lived in New York, what were some of the things that you look forward to in spring, and then living in North Carolina for the last 3 years? Like what's the different vibe wise, activities, all of that good stuff?
Space.
Yeah, right. So in New York, it was more for me the weather and getting out, having that outdoor lunch or something with a friend, or going to the park. In the sense that we had, of course, Central Park, but I was also in Roosevelt Island for a time, so we had parks there. So that was really nice too. But everything was very close and local, but you just get to feel like you can breathe, a little bit. So that's what I loved about it. It was really nice. You get more of the flowers out in the bodega. Usually they're covered in the wintertime with
Oh, that's a good point.
So what about North Carolina? Tell us. Don't tell us about this palatial estate that you live in that you only pay $700 for, because I'm not here for it.
No, I'm going to tell you, everybody's coming down, right? So the prices are getting a little bit higher. So it's not as cheap, but it's still cheaper. And it's nice. We do have a lot more space. Obviously. So we just bought our first home in the fall. So I'm here in spring in this home for the very first time. And we're excited because we have flower beds outside. I have planted my seeds and I planted them, I think the weekend of like the 18th, I can't remember the exact date, but a couple of weeks ago. And they're starting to sprout. I have these velvet sunflowers, which I'm excited about. You can see the velvet around the edge of the leaves. So that's exciting. Yeah, we have kale.
Spring gardening episode.
So yeah, I'm excited about that. I used to try to squeeze it on, a balcony or my windowsill. And even here, I started out as an apartment here. So that's where I've been. And we had everything on the balcony in pots. So this is exciting for me.
Cool.
Yeah.
What about like activities? Like, New York is a lot of like street fairs and things happening. Like, what does that vibe look like in North Carolina?
We have a lot of, and granted, things have been different because of COVID. So I'm sure there's probably, but we do have things like parades and things like that happen every now and then. And we do have a lot of restaurants, 7 states, especially North Carolina. We have a lot of good cooks here, a lot of good food. So they do have also the outdoor eating, every type of food you can imagine, but not as many restaurants. So not as much variety, but you definitely can find some restaurants for different tastes and palates. We have lots of trails. It's beautiful here. So a lot of natural places where you can go. We have, I'm really close to a big lake, and people start to get out on their boats more, things like that. So it's exciting and very similar in the sense of what we're looking forward to in New York. But there are some things that are, I guess, yeah, definitely slightly different because of what we have here in our landscape with the trails and everything.
Concern with the South is the same as a lot of Black people. I'm like, they're so racist, girl.
Oh yeah. Oops, sorry about my dog.
No, we love dogs. Don't worry. Just at any point, if he gets close, pick him up. Say hi.
Yeah, we are dog friendly. Okay.
He needs a haircut though. I was keeping him, kind of warm in the winter, but now it's like overdue. I think I'm gonna put my headphones in.
Oh, okay. But the thing that I think about in the South is that you hear about racism everywhere, but the part that that scares me the most is that the way they're changing the voting laws in the South, specifically how they're trying, how like it's just so pervasive in that area. That's what you hear about it. And I'm not saying that every day you go out there's a Klans rally like it's the 1950s, but I would imagine, when you first moved there, did you feel a little bit of trepidation in terms of that?
Yeah, that's definitely the thought. And I'm going to tell you, I never thought I was going to leave New York. So I never in a million years thought I would be here. My family
Where are you from originally?
I'm from Maryland, and I spent 12 years in New York, and I spent 7 in, am I doing this math right? Yeah. 7 in Jersey. I am doing the math right. So I've been in the area for a very long time. But what was I going to say? My family is originally from here, from North Carolina, and I'm not in the same area. It's my family. They're from the Raleigh area. And, but anyway, I did think that, and I remember coming down as a child and it seemed less progressive than what I'm seeing right now. Right now, I mean, we had this idea that we're going to have this easy living. These Southern folks work hard, and it's not a lot of Southern folks actually, because so many people are moving down here. It's actually where I am. It's, funny when you say, oh, you're actually from here. Like, honestly, everybody is an expat from somewhere and mostly from the New York, New Jersey area. So that's kind of fun, but it's very hospitable. There are definitely folks who are from here, but that's what I appreciate. It's this idea of the Southern charm is actually a real thing. People are super friendly, and I'm enjoying that. I'm enjoying having small conversations with people in the store, or, even like, okay, I'm just getting my milk. Usually you get it, you leave. It's like, I don't know. People make up conversations, which is, really, really fun. It's like, you know, people already. And, you get some folks that want to be more reserved like anywhere else, and that's fine. But I have a friend who moved to Georgia, and we were kind of joking. He goes, I hope they don't start Jim Crow laws again, because everybody's coming down there. And I was like, but anyway, we definitely I'm not experiencing that. And I will say this, New York is one of those places that has a reputation for not being friendly. And I never experienced that. I think New York is really great. I met a lot of wonderful people. But right next to it in New Jersey, I actually experienced more difficulty with other cultures and other people. And I was very surprised by that. It was nothing like New York. And I come here to North Carolina, and it felt refreshing to me because I felt that the genuine interest in people was back versus when I was in New Jersey. Like I missed that even though I was very close to New York still. So to answer your question, there's definitely still racism. There's definitely people who are thinking about it. It's not as blatant in your face. Every now and then, if I go in a place that's kind of like not as populated, I have seen a Confederate flag, but I haven't experienced like people being rude to me or anything like that because of my culture. My kids are doing pretty well in their schools. So I experience more warmth than not.
That's really great. That's really that really makes me happy for you, Taryn. And, as a lifelong New Yorker, I've lived other places, like visited and lived there, but never longer than, I lived in DC. I went to college there, and I lived in the Maryland area for I say 5 or 6 years. And then I lived in LA for 3 years. I've only lived in big cities. I mean, except DC. That's not really a city to me, like New York, LA, and then fake DC. Sorry, I'm just messing with you. I had to take any opportunity to make fun of Brandy. I'm from DC, Baltimore, Maryland, not real cities. Very different.
even people from Baltimore, like we are very clear about we're not from DC. DC people are very clear about we're not from
Yeah,
Baltimore.
we don't want to be the same.
Totally different. Club music, go, not the same.
Right,
Sorry.
that is true.
Yes, that music was so crazy. I'm like, people really love this music. It was so different, you know.
Mhm.
And I will say that you hear this, you know, that there's all this racial strife, and there's all these problems, and there's all this, you know, what do they call it, like gerrymandering in terms of voting in these areas. But you're saying that you've lived here now for several years and you haven't experienced any of it, which is great.
Yeah, and I don't want to go too much on a tangent on that either, but I will say some states do have a problem. I'm recognizing that with voting. I know Georgia for sure, and you know, and we actually, this is my first time living in a red state. What is it?
You're in a red state?
I'm in a red state. Yeah. So when I'm seeing all these,
the way real.
yeah, when I'm seeing all these Republican facts, I'm like, well, you know, but you know, the things that I'm learning, it is a different perspective, and it's not about. And then some people's perspective really are not considering that it's a race thing. Even so, that's the thing. It's about informing each other on our perspectives, and that certain things will affect other people, and it's not just race. It's just, you know, other issues in our society too. And I think some people genuinely just always believed one thing and just were never challenged in something else. But I was gonna say Asheville is like the blue, but we're not in Asheville, North Carolina. That's a very creative state too. But Charlotte is also there. So there are pockets. I was actually in a blue area, but the state itself. So there are pockets that will vote blue here. But what was I going to say? Charlotte was actually one of the first progressive cities after after actually Jim Crow laws ended, because they realized there's no point of kind of fighting it. It's better economically, and that's why Charlotte is always doing well economically since then. So I didn't know that, and that's kind of explains you know, some of the warmth here too. It's not new to them. They've been practicing, like, you know, equitable things.
So you get the space of living in the South, and you get, you know, and you get the weather of living in the South. Okay. Yeah. So you do realize that when it gets warm, it's going to be like 90-degree days back to back to back.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like spring in the South is like no joke.
Right. We've already had 80-degree weather. It's not consistent, as you were talking about. Sometimes we're like pouring down rain, and sometimes we're cold. We're in like the 60s, you know, back, you know, but it is hot in the summer.
It's like we're 60s, it's cold.
You know what? After being here, you know what I mean? It's like at first you're like, oh, 30s is cold, right? Or lower. But when you get here, after experiencing all this kind of warmer, milder weather, then when you get to 60, 50s, you're like, oh, it's cold, it's chilly, you know. I'm one of those people now.
Yes, I was like that when I lived in LA. I was definitely like that. It's quick. Human beings get acclimated pretty quickly.
Yeah, right? That's true. Yeah.
Speaking of curiosity, food in North Carolina, as far as like plant-based food, like what does the landscape look like down there?
Well, North Carolina is definitely meat heavy in the sense that they are, you know, prideful of like the barbecue and all of that stuff, and that soul food kind of cooking. And that's across, you know, like so many different dynamics and cultures will embrace that Southern cooking. And however, there are plant-based groups and organizations. I remember, I think, Brady, I mentioned it to you before in the past, before COVID hit, that there was some kind of festival or something surrounding vegan foods and lifestyle. So that was exciting. I didn't get to go, and I don't know what's going on now if they're going to do a new one. But there are people here who are pretty health conscious and food. So we're focused on plant-based living. So that's, you know, really exciting too. I don't think it's as mainstream yet as some of the other more concentrated areas, but it's definitely here. You could get some good food that are plant-based.
Nice. So when Brandy thinks spring, she thinks, I'm telling you how Brandy thinks because I know.
I'm interested.
She thinks the vegetables that are in season now.
Yes.
So Brandy wanted to do this whole episode. She could tell us about mangoes. I bet you it was all about mangoes. All right. So, do you know of any vegetables?
Avocado.
Are you aware of any vegetables that when you had them there, like there's farmers markets there, and did you notice that they taste better there? You know.
Well, we're still really close to farmland. Like I pass farmland all the time. So yeah, we definitely have some fresh stuff because we're so close to people who are still growing. And so the farmer markets, it's not like coming from far away or next state over or anything like that. It's usually coming from here. Leafy green vegetables are big, because of collard greens, kale, all that stuff.
They taste different and better.
They taste different and better. I think they're prepared better, if that makes any kind of sense. I like how they make their veggies here. And that's the thing too. You can pick, if you're into picking berries and stuff, like we can start that earlier here because the farmers will open that up earlier. Beautiful strawberry farms and things like that here where you can go and get some really beautiful berries, just in general, not just strawberries. I did that one recently, like last season. So that's in my mind because I had 2 big baskets of beautiful strawberries and I was in shock.
And this is what makes Brandy's happy. That's all she needs.
I'm about to ask. I'm about to dig into this. So the strawberries that you got last year that you picked, they look beautiful, but did they taste equal?
Oh, they were delicious. Yeah.
Yeah, see, we have that luxury up here. So what we had last season, we had amazing blueberries. Like our strawberries weren't great.
Oh, okay. No, these were big, juicy, sweet. Like, and I could not believe like it was in access. Like, you know what I mean? And you would think
now Brandy wants to come visit. All right?
You should during that time, Brandy. You should. Yeah, but Jersey, don't get me wrong, because I was also there. They have some pretty good berry picking places too. I remember doing that in the apples. So, got to share the love. I know we're talking about NYC, but they're right there. So you could go there too.
That's true, but when you think about a place where you say there's a lot of farms, you know what I mean? I'm not only thinking about berries, I'm thinking about the South. I'm thinking about melons, like watermelons. You understand? I'm thinking about, are there oranges down there as well?
That's usually a Florida thing. Yeah, the oranges. So that's the South. And yeah, they do. I've been to Florida quite a few times recently. And when they are growing, we usually drive down. You can literally smell them in the areas that are growing the oranges. You can smell the oranges. Yeah, so that's beautiful.
If it wasn't such a crazy state, I mean, like they're so insane. I would go drive just so I could smell it, but it's just too crazy. Like,
yeah, that's why we don't live there. And that was one of the options.
You're funny.
Oranges have been great the last couple of seasons too, though. So
the what?
Oranges? Like I feel like
has
really been amazing. Like I got some blood oranges. Really loving them.
Mm-hmm.
I just one to Vaughn because I know you have a love-hate relationship with blood oranges, but my batch that I have now is really tasty.
I mean, whatever. I mean, like, why is it so bright on the inside? It's not like a big deal. Like, I think it's a big sell. Like, when you look that way, okay, you know what it reminds me of? Once Kim Kardashian was on an episode of Dancing with the Stars, right?
Okay.
And they put her to dance to the song Baby Got Back, and she couldn't do it. And they were like, this is a letdown. You understand? That's how the blood orange is.
What? How are you comparing a blood orange to Kim Kardashian's inability to effectively move to Baby Got Back?
Because when you look at it, you're like, oh, this is going to be good. This is going to be exotic. It's going to be really juicy. And then when you eat it, you're like, it's not that special.
It depends.
Okay.
I love Kim Kardashian. Okay.
Mm-hmm. She has to practice. It's in the knees.
Listen,
it's not about the butt, really. It's on the knees.
At the school that Taryn's going to be launching, she'll be teaching Kim Kardashian how to.
That's the A in STEAM.
Oh my goodness, guys. So listen, Tara, I want to thank you for joining us.
This episode has gone off the rails. Okay?
That's spring, right? Spring is all about just like experiencing things, changing up your thinking, exploring possibilities, and that's the journey that we took you guys on today.
Yeah, that's true. Sharon is so great. She might have to be our Southern correspondent. You know, because we love Terry.
We love to. Let me tell you, we gotta visit each other's, areas too. We gotta do some travel now, spring break, but some good, calm, not wild college travel. Not that spring break.
Yeah, we all look like we in college, but we ain't. We grown, so we can't be doing spring break.
We can't do that kind of spring break.
Thanks for joining
Thank
us
you both.
on the podcast. Be easy. Thanks for listening. Tune in each week for a new episode.
And stay connected to us on Instagram and YouTube at The Easy Answer Podcast.